between at Westside Decorating Center. And a week from Friday, Mike Stoddard will be here with me to answer your questions about paint, wallpaper, and all that good stuff. In the meantime, I'm Art Lewis. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday morning. This is a busy day around the world. A couple of things of note are happening, one in this country and one in Italy, or actually in the Vatican. Today is the day the papal conclave starts their work to pick a new pope. We'll talk about that. And today is the day, if you are flying in the United States or flying from the United States, you will need real ID or sufficient identification to certify that you are who you say you are from where you say you are. We'll talk about that too. But it's open phone, so anything you want to talk about, 989-752-6111 is the number to call. As I mentioned, the papal conclave gets underway today at the Vatican in the Sistine Chapel. There are approximately 135 elector cardinals. Now, there are more cardinals than that. There are 200 and, boy, the number 268 sticks in my mind, 238. I'm not sure, to be honest with you, but it's more than the 135 electors, because once you reach your 80th birthday, you can no longer be an elector. You're still a cardinal, but you can't be an elector. So only those under the age of 80 will be selecting the next pontiff. And many of those cardinals were appointed by the Pope who just passed, Pope Francis. But there is serious question as to whether the next pope will be, as Pope Francis was, liberal, or whether they will return to a more conservative pope, or whether there will be a moderate pope. And where will that pope be from? They're all interesting questions, and I've said this before, being non-Catholic. For some reason, and I can't tell you what it is, I find this whole notion of how the Pope is selected and how we wait for the smoke to come forth from the Sistine Chapel fascinating. It's historic. It's part of history. Let's realize the Pope represents 1.4 billion Catholics to start with. And the process is fascinating and mysterious. As a matter of fact, it was, I think, an American cardinal, and I thought I had his name someplace. He said that the papal conclave is both profound and mysterious, was the way it was put. And who are the leaders? Well, we can speculate on that. I can give you the list that's been printed in the media over and over again, and there's different names on different lists. The fact is, nobody knows. Often it's much like the selection of a vice president in the United States by the presidential candidate. You get the lists of names which are endless, and they invariably pick somebody else. But some of the cardinals frequently mentioned, non-Italians, and that's important because Italians have made up about 80% of the popes throughout history. But some of the non-Italians, Luis Antonio Tagle, 67, of the Philippines, he's a liberal, and sometimes he's called Francis II because he follows in the footsteps of Francis and would probably continue the policies of Francis. Peter Erdo, 72, of Hungary, he is considered a favorite among the more conservative cardinals. So just not in case you're not getting it, the church, like much of politics throughout the world, there is a division between the liberal and the conservative views and how the church should be run. So those are the couple of the leading candidates. And there are others, many others, as a matter of fact. I've seen probably as many as 10 names in different sources over a period of time. But who actually gets it? It's anybody's guess. Anybody's guess. And once it's done, the white smoke emanates from the Sistine Chapel, indicating that they have selected a cardinal. And the way it works, the voting process, each cardinal who is an elector can write the name of their chosen candidate on a ballot. They fold it, they hold it aloft, and carry it to the altar in order of rank. The cardinal places the ballot on a plate covering a chalice and says in Italian, "I call as my witness Christ the Lord, who will be my judge, that my vote is given to the one whom I believe should be elected according to God." They do that each and every time that they cast their vote. The cardinal then uses the plate to drop the vote into the chalice, bows at the altar, returns to his seat, and this goes on, cardinal after cardinal, 135 of them. Cardinals who are unable to walk give their folded ballot to a scrutineer who follows the same procedure without reciting the oath. And if any cardinals are too ill to be in the chapel, they're given ballots and a sealed box with a slit where the folded ballot can be inserted. Once the votes are cast, the infirmariel bring the box back to the chapel where it's opened in front of the electors. The votes are counted and added to those already in the main chalice. Once all of those votes have been cast, one of the scrutineers, there are 3 of them, shake the chalice to mix the ballots. Another scrutineer counts them, transferring them to an empty container. If the number of ballots doesn't match the number of voters, all ballots are burned, and a new vote is held immediately. If the count is correct, the ballots are opened and read. And the people called scrutineers sit at a table before the altar. The first reads the name written on the ballot, passes it to the second, who confirms the name, hands it to the third, who reads it aloud for everyone to hear and records the vote. Once all the votes are cast, the count is checked, verified, and if, of course, there is no pope selected, they place chemicals in the stove, which let out a black smoke. It's a cast iron stove. If a pope is selected, then they place chemicals in the stove that become white smoke, and the world has a new pope. It's happening today. Let me say good morning to Gene in Saginaw Township. Gene, good morning to you.
Good morning, Art. As you know, I'm not a Catholic. I'm a very, very old Lutheran, but I'm going to call my son Jim. You don't have to be a cardinal to be a candidate. Any Catholic boy can be a candidate, so I'm calling my son-in-law Jim McGinnis to see if he's in the running.
You don't have to be
a good one too, huh?
You don't have to be a Catholic. Do you have to be a Christian? I would think you'd have to be because obviously, I would imagine you'd have to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not in the running. Just in case you were curious.
Well, it'll be interesting to watch, as I say. But whoever it is, I think they had a real good pope that has just passed on. Pope Francis, and I hope it's somebody that follows in his footsteps.
Well, it's going to be interesting because, as I mentioned earlier, many of these electors, these cardinals, were appointed by Pope Francis. Now, that doesn't mean they all share his views, obviously, but but it is going to be interesting to see if the church is steady in its course or if it's wanting to go back to the old times and the old course, because the church was led by conservatives for quite a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. Man, here we are talking about it, neither of us Catholic, which just proves how interesting a process it is and how much it impacts the world to some degree.
It does, yes. Yeah.
So, all right, my friend.
We'll watch it with interest. And hope they pick a good one. Yeah.
All right. We'll talk to you.
Take care, Art.
Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
You too. We'll take a break and come back. We'll get to Dave and Saginaw when we return.
Boating season.
Lewis Show, and it's open phones. We talk to Dave in Saginaw. Dave, good morning to you.
Good morning, Art. I'm going to have to be a little bit careful here with what I want to comment on. The Pope issue. I am a former Roman Catholic.
Okay.
I'm not Roman Catholic now, but I'm a major denomination. And with what was being discussed between you and the previous caller as far as your comments on basically the political aspect of the whole process, which is not supposed to be an issue, but...
Yeah, but we know it is.
We know it is. In the sense of the way this thing is supposed to work, the Holy Spirit, third person of the Trinity, is supposed to be the intervening force behind who is actually elected the Pope, based on the theology of the system. And
so that everybody understands, and as I understand it, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, but you're correct about that. But the way that is entered into the selection process is that once the Pope is selected by the electors, it is deemed that that was the wish of the Holy Spirit.
Right, exactly. And again, based on the theology of it, and based on some of the comments on your own radio program and PBS, in the past 2 or 3 elections, it hasn't taken very long, 2 or 3 days.
Correct.
But if you go back to the 6th century, it took 2 years.
3 years.
Well, 3 years. Okay. So what happened to the Holy Spirit in 3 years that these guys could not come up with a name for someone to be elected Pope, where in modern day time, I guess, the Holy Spirit must be a little bit more active.
Well, let me give you some insight into that as I understand it, and let me find it here. I want to make sure I get it right, because the longest conclave in history was in 1268.
Okay.
And it took 3 years, as you said.
Right.
When the winner, Gregory the Tenth, was named Pope, he tightened up the rules, and since then, the longest conclave in modern times was in 1903 with Pope Pius X, and that took 5 days.
Right.
And there were also some interesting rules, and I'm not sure, I don't know that they're still in place, but there were rules that restricted the amount of food a cardinal would get if it lasted more than X number of days.
Exactly.
And at first it went from 1 plate of food, and if nothing happened after a certain amount of time, then it went to bread and water, literally.
Right. That was the 12th century piece, the bread and water piece, because the townspeople were having to take care of all these guys, and they were running out of food.
Yep.
And it was taking so long, they decided we can't keep doing this, so they cut them back to bread and water.
I mean, there is a ton of history associated with this, and again, it's the history part that, for me anyway, as a non-Christian, non-Catholic, I find history interesting, so I find this interesting.
Oh, it's very, very interesting, and I guess my take on it is, from having been a Roman Catholic from First Communion on up, the Holy Spirit is always the intervening force, at least in theory, with the theology involved.
Absolutely.
And we'll see how fast the Holy Spirit lets these guys know this time.
I suspect, because the last conclaves of the recent times, modern times, have all been 3 days or less. I suspect we're going to see that again.
I think you're probably right.
A day or two, and I think we'll probably see it.
I think you're probably right, and I will be following it.
Very good.
Thank you for the time.
Well, thanks for sharing with us. We appreciate it. Have a good one.
Sure.
Bye, Dave.
You too. Bye.
And let's talk to Harry in Saginaw. Harry, good morning to you.
Good morning, Art. Well, I'm talking about Mickey York, one of the announcers for the Tigers and the Red Wings and the Pistons. I see he got cut, and I just wonder if is there on account of FanDuel were taking over and cutting cutting paychecks. You know
well,
what I mean?
I don't know that they worked for FanDuel or they worked for the originating network, not FanDuel. That is one of the teams. I'm not positive about that. I did not know he was cut. I know Mickey, good guy, and hopefully, if he was cut, he'll land on his feet. I'm sure he will.
Oh yeah,
He started here.
One time.
Yeah, he started here on Channel 25.
Yeah. And I just wondered because I know they the regular guy on the hockey games, he retired, and then cutting Mickey York out. I mean, I'm starting to wonder if they're trying to pull the purse strings back a little bit.
Don't know.
Okay.
Anything is possible. I'll look into it so I can find out.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, go Tigers.
Yeah. All right. Good enough.
Yep.
Thanks.
Bye.
Take care. Carl, hang on. We'll get to you next after these notes here on the Art Lewis Show.
Making your summer travel.
Back with you on the Art Lewis Show. Just before we get to our next caller, for Harry, it was a financial consideration when it came to Mickey York. I just looked it up. That network, FanDuel, and its parent company had filed for bankruptcy a while back. And most RSNs, or regional sports networks, are having financial problems. So he was a victim of that, and he's probably not going to be the only one either. Let's talk to Carl in Saginaw. Good morning, Carl.
Good morning, Art. A couple of days ago, you were having a discussion with a caller about illegal aliens and due process. And it seemed like his view was, if these people are here illegally, then they're not entitled to due process and they should be shipped out of the country.
Well,
I guess, okay. Well, I guess my first question is, don't you have to establish that they're here illegally?
Well,
I mean,
that's easy.
More than
that's
just,
that's
more
easy.
Than just,
they crossed the border in an illegal place. That's easy.
Well, how do you know that?
Because there are dedicated lanes for legal crossing into the United States.
No, how do you know? How do you know a particular person did that?
The Border Patrol knows it. They've seen them. They've seen them. They've detained them. They've released them. No, we have. No, there's a percentage of them. We don't know where they are. but most of them they know.
They just deport.
Come on,
Art, they
are
just
you really
deported a mother.
telling me that you think all those people got here legally? Is that what you're telling me?
No,
You're
no,
smarter
I'm
than
saying,
that, Carl.
I'm saying, how do you know unless you have a hearing?
Because
are you just going to go on?
Oh, wait. What if I catch you
accused?
If I catch you
because
crossing
they've
the
been
river,
accused.
if I catch you crossing the river, should I send you back right then and there without a hearing? I would think yes, but that's not what's happening.
Okay, but Art, you're just.
What?
I think you're just assuming that whatever's in the police, the police are accusing them of, therefore that must be true. But how do you know that?
How do you know anything?
Unless you have a hearing.
I'm sorry. If you catch them coming, listen, how many images have you seen of groups of people crossing the river, being detained at the border by the Border Patrol, and then for whatever reason they're given, citations to appear or what have you? Do we know that all those people crossed illegally? Do we know all those people crossed illegally? They were seen, and they were detained.
It seems obvious. It seems
obvious, doesn't it?
But that's not a legal standing. That it seems
oh, come
obvious.
on, Carl.
That's not a legal.
Come on.
Okay, Art. What about the people? They just deported a woman and her 2 children. She's lived in this country for 10 years. Now, how do you know that person that
well, I don't know what the circumstances are of hers.
Against her. How do you know the charges against her are correct unless you have a hearing?
I don't, but I don't know what the conditions were.
Exactly. That's why you have a hearing.
For everybody, then you're saying everybody. Come on, Carl, you know better than that.
Okay, well, I guess a lot of these people are going to have to go have some kind of a hearing, not a full-blown trial. They're going to have to go in front of a judge and at least hear the charges against them and be able to respond. Isn't that what we do?
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Someone who crosses that river, we'll use the river, illegally comes into the United States as an illegal alien. Do they have your constitutional rights?
Well, the Supreme
do they
Court
have
says yes.
your constitutional rights?
Yes, they do.
No, they don't. The Supreme Court
they do.
No, the Supreme Court only ruled on one particular issue, and that was that they deserve some kind of hearing.
The Constitution says persons. The Constitution says persons, not citizens.
Okay.
So
all right.
The laws apply to anyone that is here. Any person that is here are under our laws.
Well, good. They broke the law getting here, so they broke the law getting here. So send them out.
Then put them in. Put them in front of a judge and make your case.
You willing to pay for all those judges? Are you willing to pay for all those judges?
So you want to just?
I didn't answer the question. Don't answer a question with a question.
Yes. You have to pay for the judges. You have to.
Okay, what are you going to sacrifice to do that?
You don't have a choice.
What do you want to sacrifice to do that?
You don't. Right. So you want to ignore part of the Constitution?
You don't want to answer questions. You want to ask questions. I'm done.
It's inconvenient.
You want to answer questions with questions, and that's not providing an answer. So we've heard it.
You're not answering.
I'm not answering because I asked the question first.
What was the second question?
What do you want to sacrifice to pay for those judges? We can't afford it, so what are you going to sacrifice?
Well, the tax cuts for billionaires, I would start there.
Oh, I see. Billionaires. The tax cut that's being proposed now, you understand, will help all of the middle class in this country, not just billionaires. You understand that, don't you?
It'll trickle down. It'll trickle down like it did last time.
Well, I'll tell you what. If it doesn't happen and your taxes go up, then you can call me and tell me about it. All right, I got to take a break.
The price is going up, too.
Got to take a break. Take care, Carl. Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right, we'll be back with more calls in a moment, but let me talk about McDonald Ford in Freeland because you probably noticed it's getting harder and harder to find products that say Made in America. Well, now with the uncertainty of tariffs, it's become even more important. McDonald Ford, in anticipation of tariffs, stock their lot with tariff-free vehicles with many more en route. Not only are they tariff-free, but Ford is offering employees pricing for everyone. Did you hear that? Everyone. That means you pay the same price as Ford employees. In addition, Chrysler and import buyers considering a Ford receive the lowest price offered. Chevy truck buyers can now get into the Ford F-150, also at employee pricing. So you see, now's the time to visit McDonald Ford M47 in Freeland for the best selection and lowest possible price. Don't let tariffs prevent you from getting the vehicle of your choice at a price you can afford. Visit McDonald Ford in Freeland today. Remember, tariff-free and employee pricing for everyone, and Ford has just announced they are extending that employee pricing through early July.
This one's deep, way back, gone! Oh, man!
The Tigers play 8:15 tonight on 790.
Popes in the past have been elected from Italy, Italian.
Right.
What if they voted this time to have one from the United States?
Well, it's been talked about, but on none of the lists that I've seen have there been any leading candidates from the United States. I always thought Cardinal Dolan would make a great pope, but what do I know? But there are no leading candidates from the United States. One was mentioned, I don't remember his name now, but it'd be a real long shot. Eventually, maybe someday,
you never know.
But you never know.
Come out that way, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying that
you never know.
That would be a really shocker, wouldn't it?
Oh, it'd be a real shocker. Yeah, it'd be a real shocker, and the first time it ever happened. So, but then again, Pope Francis was the first one from Latin America, so there's always firsts.
Yep. Well, just have to wait and see, I guess.
You got it. All right.
Okay.
Good enough,
Thank
Al.
you.
Thanks. Bye-bye now. And we have Russ in Bay City with us. Russ, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Art. Before I get into the topic I called about, I kind of wanted to maybe help clear some things up for you. It's not a fun thing to accept, but we have to accept how dedicated the Democrats are to illegal immigration. They firmly
I don't have
believe
to
that if
accept
they-
it. I understand that they are, but I don't have to accept it.
No, I mean, instead of pretending they aren't.
Well, I don't
You
know.
know, I mean, they believe that if they can get these people citizenship, they'll have a permanent voting class.
Yeah, we understand that.
Of welfare recipients.
Which is why they're so against Trump.
Exactly.
One of the reasons. One of the reasons.
But anyway, what I called about is, did you see where Jocelyn Benson has dropped the charges on the anti-Israeli rioters from the U of M?
No, I haven't.
Oh, yeah.
Well, not Johnson.
They get a
Oh,
free
wait.
pass.
First of all, it wasn't Jocelyn Benson. It would have had to have been the Attorney General, Dana Netzel. But Benson has no vote in that. She's the Secretary of State.
You're right. I got the names mixed up. But yeah, she did. She dropped the charges.
Well,
and it's like,
it's her right, I guess. Don't
Yeah.
agree with it, but it's her right.
I mean, they screamed and hollered about the January 6th rioters getting, after being the most persecuted rioters in the history of our nation, they got a pass from Trump, yet hardly a peep about this.
Yeah.
Just a little blurb on M Live I saw.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, isn't that special?
Well, something to consider the next time you vote for Attorney General, I guess.
You know.
There you go.
What do you do? I mean,
you consider it the next time you
I
vote. That's what
voted.
you do.
Michigan, for our interstate politics, I understand in presidential elections we are a swing state, but interstate politics, we are solid blue.
No. We are right now, but we're not. We are purple. We've had Republican.
We had a conservative Republican governor
before this last one. Well,
really?
What was Rick Snyder?
Conservative?
Yeah. What was Rick Snyder?
At best, a moderate.
All right. Better than
liberal,
isn't it? Better than
What's
left,
that?
isn't it? Better than left, isn't it?
Well, it depends on your perspective.
Well, if you want,
It's a center left I would feel him to be center left.
Oh, I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't go there at all. He was more right than he was